views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello everyone, welcome to Open BxRx Remote, brought to you from my living workspace, Executive Suite. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche every Friday. Here's what's coming up in today's show. Leading things off, we'll shed light on autism awareness when we speak to art historian and teaching artist Nellie Escalante about her new book, Peekaboo, See Me, 35 Lessons in Self-Soul Care for the Special Needs Mom. After that, we'll be joined by photographer Bashira Webb to discuss the inspiration behind her photography and becoming an Foco Fellowship Photography Awardee. Then we'll speak to New York-based fashion designer Chuks Collins about his clothing brand, as well as the launch of his new athletic gear, TASOU. Later on in the show, Bobby C brings us an up-to-date with the latest headlines in the world of sports. And lastly, this week's Open Artist Spotlight shines on spoken word artist Danyeli Rodriguez del Orbe, who will perform for us at the end of the show as we continue celebrating National Poetry Month. So sit back y prepárate. All this and more is headed your way because now we are officially open. Welcome to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche for the next hour, encouraging you to get social with us online, that is. Tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV and like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, while you're there, follow moi on Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So April is Autism Awareness Month, and our first guest is an art historian, a museum educator / teaching artist that has turned to art and upcycling as a safe haven to reconstruct her life as a mother of 2 autistic children. Through her book, Peekaboo, See Me, 35 Lessons in Self-Soul Care for the Special Needs Mom children, she delves into the personal stories and reminds us that caring for a child with a disability requires showing up for yourself. Here to tell us more, please welcome Nellie Escalante, perdón. Hello and welcome.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're so excited to have you.
Me too.
It's so lovely to have you here on air with a smile on your face. I mean, what an introduction. Just saying, you know, not just one child on the spectrum, 2 children on the spectrum. I can't imagine what that must have been for you, especially during these particular times where we are all homebound and sheltering in place. Let's talk about both your children being on the spectrum and the different levels of spectrum in which I guess became an eye-opener and a pivoting motivator for you.
Yeah, so, you know, as I always say, and I've heard this saying, when you have, you know, one child with autism and you know one child with autism, you know one child with autism. And so both my children are very different. You know, my older son is on his way to college. He's a senior in high school, doing so well and has a 90 average. And my other son is more affected by the condition. He's nonverbal. He, you know, is more sensory needy, is very hyper, still wakes up at night. I'm talking with you and he woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning today. So, you know, it's still going on. But they're both my light, you know, and I have learned so much from them, and through them I've learned, you know, very much about myself, and that's really what the book is about.
So one is you said 19 years old and the other one's 14 years old. So you've been in this I guess environment for quite some years, balancing out raising these 2 children and caring for yourself in the process, which is what the book is about. And it's also what your session with Bronx Arts Time, which I didn't mention in your introduction. However, we can talk about it because I think it's important that we shed some light on the fact that there's this other factor in being a mom, a natural born caregiver, right? Because once you become a mom, that's just what it is. And then to have these additional requirements in having to learn for yourself, because you have to be able to learn how to navigate through it, and then differentiating both spectrums and how to handle them both. And so every time I think about it, I'm going, oh my gosh, like, when does she have a moment to just soak in a bath?
Yeah. That's like, you hit it right on the nose. Yeah, it has been quite a journey, and you're right, balancing the two. You know, I have one child that loves hugs and loves affection, and another child that does not, and having to remember that. And it's been a journey, but what has really been my saving grace has been art, you know, finding that time to create art. And when I can't create because they're around, writing has been such a cathartic for me. And so that you can do on the computer, and you can have them around, and it doesn't require loads of art supplies everywhere. And so I do both, and art has become actually writing has become like my second art language.
That's beautiful. And so basically you're an artist at heart, right? Because from what I understand, you were into painting first, right? And now you exercise upcycling, which I love this image, that rather this piece that's behind you. It looks like an image, but it's to keep calm. I'm an autism mom, and I see you wearing Julia de Burgos in honor of National Poetry Month.
Definitely.
And so I'm assuming these are items you've upcycled.
Definitely. Yeah. So that upcycling has become like a metaphor for, you know, what I've had to do for my life. I've had to, you know, reconstruct my life. I was on my way to becoming the next Latin American curator in my mind. And, you know, I had to take 7 years off from my museum career and pivot, you know, like many of us have had to do, right, during this time. Especially as parents are constantly doing that. People with disabilities are constantly having to pivot and change course. And so, yeah, just upcycling, recycling, tearing things apart, putting them back together. That's really been kind of what I do in my art and I do in my life. And printing powerful women also has really helped me when I read stories of Julia de Burgos, Lolita Lebrón, and their resilience and their resistance. It gives me, you know, just that power to move on, and you know,
that sense of hope, and that sense of hope, and not feeling, because I'm listening to you and I'm going, well, you know, you thought you in your head you were going to become this Latin, like this famous Latin curator, right? Latin American curator, and you know, who's to say that you still can't become that? That's number one. However, you've had to pivot based on your circumstances, and yet you've still allowed it to be part of your language in your environment, in your immediate environment. And not only that, you're showing it to them as well. You're teaching them, whether it's being absorbed or not. I like the fact that it's your own form of therapy, which I think is really dope. Yeah. Right? I like your language of like tearing it apart and putting it back together and reconstructing that. Right? Definitely. I think we're all doing that right now. I think we're all doing that right now here.
Exactly, which is why I published my book. You know, I said I want this pandemic to mean something. And so I've been writing this book for like 9 to 10 years. And I just felt this rush from God just to say to do it now. We're all vulnerable. You know, these stories are very raw and vulnerable. And for a long time, I didn't know if I wanted to publish them. And then I thought, you know what, we're all vulnerable now. This is the time. We've all had to pivot and change course. And so, you know, you talked about having your children, you know, having my children seeing me do this stuff. And that's like the first lesson, like have your children see you enjoy your interests. You know, I think it's a great model when we show our kids that, you know, we love them, but we have other things going on and that are important to us, and they know that, and I think they'll allow us that time.
Right. And so before we go, let's talk about the session that you, I guess, provide viewers with the Bronx Arts Time as well.
Yeah, I had this amazing opportunity to be on Art Time, that's sponsored by Bronx Arts Factory and BronxNet, and so there I talked a little bit about my journey with my kids and this whole idea of upcycling, and then I get to show you what I do. So I what I showed was how you can make yourself, a wearable art piece with paint and a little bit of printing and a little bit of reconstruction. So it's a great docu-series, and I'm just so excited to be part of it. So,
well, I will say the one that stood out for me the most was seeing you transform boots into a belt. I was like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. But that requires a special kind of scissors, no?
Well, I have like fabric scissors, and the boots, they weren't so thick. They were like leather. My scissors cut through leather. But I love that kind of stuff. It's a challenge, and I'm like, could I do that? Could I make boots, a belt from boots? And I have a special. I'm going to do something with sneakers next, so I'm so excited to share that in my Instagram soon. So it's just fun, and that level of fun and excitement is that's resistance and resilience, and that makes you a much better parent, let me tell you. Because when you're like upset or you feel limited, then you limit your kids. And my kids, especially my older one, he's always interested in like, who are you printing next? And what are you going to do next? And it builds a sense of anticipation for them too. So it's lots of fun. It's lots of fun.
It's lovely. And I just want to thank you for bringing it here to our viewers and sharing your joy, because for me right now and having this moment with you, it's been a wonderful example of using joy as a means of resisting.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really what it is. Joy and faith in God and letting him transform you through every situation that you're in. That's really the bottom line. And it's really what I want to share. And that's really my story. So I'm happy to be able to do that through my art, through my book, through my writing, and through my life. I'm so grateful. And I'm grateful for my kids, because I believe that there are a lot of things that I would not probably have not been unearthed in me if it not for them, and maybe it wasn't my trajectory to be a curator, and this is what God has for me. So I'm excited. And I am back in the museum world. So I have balancing it all and just grateful.
And still finding time for yourself. It's beautiful. And embracing the circumstances. Good for you, Nellie.
Exactly.
Escalante.
Thank you. Yes.
All right, you guys, once again for the book Peekaboo, I See Me, 35 Lessons in Self-Soul Care for the Special Needs Mom for Autism, that can be found on Amazon.com. And also in honor of Autism Awareness Month, the recablecast of Art Time with BX Arts Factory featuring Nellie will air Friday, April 23rd, 11:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. and throughout the weekend on channels Optimum 67, Fios 2133, and live streamed at BronxNet.tv. We do have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll speak to a photographer from the Bronx. Don't go anywhere.
Home to a mixture of vibrant cultural backgrounds, the Bronx contributes an array of rich cuisines to New York City. A healthy meal, however, is still up for question for many residents in the borough. Hoping to change the landscape of health-conscious food in Black and Brown communities, Chef Leanna Blount introduced her vegan pop-up to the Bronx, a Black Rican vegan.
I know people want to still keep in touch with their roots and their culture, and I want to too. There's a lot of things I grew up eating and I just can't let go of.
Born and raised in the Bronx with a multi-ethnic background, Blount tells me becoming a vegan was a step away from the norm. The predominantly Black and Brown borough is known for its food deserts and is continuously rated the lowest county in terms of health, coming in last at number 62. Determined to lead a healthier lifestyle, the Bronx-based chef created the pop-up food service preparing culturally Black and Puerto Rican dishes with a vegan twist.
My family is half Black and the other half is Puerto Rican, and we don't have many vegan options in the Bronx. We do have one vegan spot, and that's about it. So when I did go vegan, it was a lot for me to research a lot of things to eat, what's good for the body, cooking a lot at home, which is kind of what started the project because I had to get creative.
So we got crispy skin.
That creativity included turning pernil, a classic Puerto Rican roast pork dish, into a vegan-friendly, health-conscious meal.
You don't have to eat meat to be in touch with certain things in your culture. It's all in the flavors, all in the seasonings, and I'm here to make a difference, and I couldn't be any more humble by that.
Despite times of uncertainty, Blount says her vegan business grew in the wake of the pandemic. However, her personal decision to become vegan started a few years earlier due to the growing concerns about the lives of her loved ones.
For the past few years, almost every other year, I had a family member pass away. And it's been too often. And as I'm getting older, I'm just starting to see things differently. I want to live a healthier lifestyle. I want the generations after me to live a healthy lifestyle and live longer. And I do want that for my family now. And I'm sure other people want that for their family as well.
With lines that wrap around the building of her pop-ups, Black Rican Vegan quickly became a hit, with those looking to add variety to their diets. As the Bronx continues to open up to the emerging lifestyle, Blount says misconceptions about the animal-free, plant-based diet run rampant in communities of color.
The biggest misconception is that it's just a white people thing. Our elders think that, unfortunately. They're very old school, and it's not. We're gonna make it an everybody thing.
As of now, the Bronx remains home for the chef, but Blount continues to pass the plate around the country and is on track to becoming a nationwide success.
Everyone is like, come to Boston, come to Miami, come to Atlanta, come here, come there. And I'm just like, whoa, I'm a one-woman show, but I do like to please. So I'm like, okay, I'll book the trip, and I'm heading out there. Let's do a pop-up out there. And just to see, what the crowd is like, what they're missing. You never know. Black Rican Vegan could be nationwide soon. Like, we just never know.
Black Rican Vegan will continue to attend pop-ups in the Bronx and beyond to cater to the community looking to expand their palates with food that feels close to home. To stay up to date on all events, visit blackricanvegan.com. Reporting for BronxNet, Kibin Aline.
Everyone, welcome back. Our next guest found her love for photography after participating in a program at The Point called ICP, which stands for International Center of Photography. And then from there, she was able to help form the NYC Bridge Project, a collective geared towards the importance of teaching a younger generation on how to tell their stories through photography. And she's now an Foco Fellowship Awardee, and she's here to share some more behind her work. Please welcome Bashira Webb. Hello, and congratulations, Bashira.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so excited about this award.
We're excited for you, and also just the history behind your development as a photographer in coming across this ICP program that The Point offered, and how you've made it your style or your preference in storytelling, right? Because I've always considered photographers to be our historians. So let's walk us through, the highlight of your journey in becoming this fellowship honoree.
It's been a long time coming. I've applied several years in a row, and so it took a lot of me looking inward at my work and really trying to figure out what it is I wanted to say and really putting that down, and having the images to go with it. And it's finally come true. And like you said, I started many years ago at a free photography program, which has really informed me through this process. If that free program wasn't there, I don't know what I would be doing today. So I'm very grateful for that, and to just be able to continue this work that I'm doing.
Right, and so the program we're referencing, but we had a brief conversation about how many years ago she did that program, and we're talking all the way back to 2003 at The Point. And so she's made it her life to just execute her storytelling through this platform, right? Through the genre of photojournalism. And I was reviewing some of your work, and you know, it's unfortunate that that we are even still having this conversation, but it's quite lovely to see what you've done with the imagery of our Black men who unfortunately have been killed at the hands of you know, the police, right? The police officers. And but there is one, and I think Lindsay, our producer, will be sharing some of the images with regards to Trayvon Martin, who, you know, that was a long time ago. I can't even remember how many years ago. And the fact that we're recently dealing with a new unfortunate situation where the 20-year-old Dante Wright was killed by accident. And your imagery shows them as almost like angels and not these particular individuals that I'm referencing, but just the referencing of the flip side of the circumstances. So that's one aspect. And then there's these other images that you have of these men, these gentlemen with flowers either in the head or smelling them, which loans itself to that feminine side of humanity, right? Because we all carry them both. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about like you getting to the core of really executing your storytelling from this place of humanity.
Yeah, so a lot of the people that you'll see in my images are people that have been in my life. They're friends, you know, lovers. And so it's really me knowing, getting to know these people, you know, these Black men, and the human side, which is what you talk about, right? And it's really about, I can see them as what they are, which is human beings, normal people just living their lives in the world. And I don't think society at large looks at people of color as human beings. And so that's really what I'm trying to push forward. And all of our complexities, no matter what it is that we're doing in our lives, if we are a train operator or, you know, if we are a lawyer, we are human beings and we deserve to be respected and looked at as such. And so that's why I try to show the range, right? We're never allowed to have a range of emotions, of being ourselves, of expressing ourselves, you know? There's always such hardness that's put on our bodies. And so it's really just about showing all of that, even the hardness, and looking at it as a beautiful thing and as just human beings, because we're all allowed to be these things, right? Only we're not allowed. And that's the issue.
Right, and then there's also the factor with the images that we're discussing, that these individuals allowed themselves to bear themselves, right? Because there's something about it. I like the juxtapose of like, okay, here's this hardcore dude with his hat and his tattoos and everything, and boom, he's smelling a sunflower, right? So it's like, it's kind of like, you know what? We all have that side to us.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's
no matter how hardcore you are, there's that other side of that really isn't really brought out, especially when you come from an urban environment.
Right, and it's hard to be able to express those things, right? Because of what society in general just puts on us and what society shows us. You know, there's so much about identity now in the world and being able to see yourself reflected, right? And I don't think as Black men, Black women, people of color, that we are able to see ourselves reflected in all the ways that we can be. And so for me, it's very important to put that out there, you know, because again, in all the ways that we can be Black or Latino, you know, there are a million different ways for us to be beautiful in those ways.
I agree. And it's lovely. I love what you've done with this particular collection, and congratulations on your fellowship. And so what are you going to do with the $1,000?
I'm going to put it back into my photography work and really try and find more subjects tell more stories, to tell more of our stories, you know, to really sit and listen and help people express that and express, you know, what's inside of me as well. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it back into my art. It's going to help pay like bills and things. And I'm going to take this award and take it back to my work, which is teaching, which is something that's really important to me, and showing our people all the things that come from just us being us, because I've never been anything but me, you know, and I'm out in the world doing it, and they can as well. So
brava, 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 brava. Thank you for sharing it, and thank you for being the example, and congratulations once again. You guys, as Bashira Webb, and they can follow her, or they can follow you, I should say, on IG at KateLibby25. We have to take a quick break, but when we return, we're going to show, well, there's one person who's changing the fashion industry. You don't want to miss. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Our next guest took the fashion industry by storm with his ready-to-wear collection for Fashion Week. He's had the opportunity to dress and design for notable celebrities such as Quincy, Trevor Jackson, and Kerry Washington, and that's just to name a few. And today he's joining us to talk about his new spring-summer collection and the launch of his new athletic gear, TASOU, which stands for the athletic side of us. And joining us to tell us more, please welcome Chuks Collins. Hello.
Hi, Rhina. Thanks for having me today. Really a pleasure to be on with you today. Thank you. You look beautiful, by the way.
Well, thank you. That means a lot coming from a fashion designer who understands the importance of comfort while looking fashionably stylish.
Right, right. Beautiful colors behind you as well. I see the beautiful art as well.
Oh, thank you. This is our, what I would call our remote studio. This is where we have, thank you for acknowledging. And, you know, I do want to just share really quickly, as best as we possibly can with our viewers, your magnificent journey of how you got to where you are. It's really a lovely story, and I would love if we could share that with our viewers.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, where do I start from? I would just first and foremost say I'm really, really grateful to God and to the universe and for everybody who's been part of my journey, especially the powerful, strong Black women who has embodied me and made me who I am today, starting from my grandmother to my mother to the women I've dated and the women I've come across, to the beautiful models, to the makeup artists, to even my neighbors. I just feel like I've just been empowered in my journey through beautiful Black women, and you guys rock. So my journey started back in England, where I was born, and from there I transitioned back to Nigeria, where I'm originally from. And then years and years gone by, and I went to school both in UK and in Nigeria. Then fast forward back to my adult years, where I lived between UK and Nigeria at the same time. But living in Nigeria, I had a car accident. During that time, there were a lot of issues with the health sectors in Nigeria, as everybody would know. And I didn't get the best care possible. So I got an infection, and the infection led to lots of visits to the hospital. Then from going to the hospitals, they kept giving me antibiotics, which wasn't good for my system. And that kind of affected, caused like a side effects to the kidney. And I had like a rare kidney disease, which they called, that was a kidney discoloration. To cut a long story short, I had to come here for a kidney transplant. But before then, I got a visa, which I was supposed to use to come here for New Year Fashion Week. But unfortunately, instead of New Year Fashion Week, I came for a transplant. So after my transplant, it was a tug of war trying to decide whether I was going to stay back here, move back to Nigeria, or move back to England. So that's how my story happened here.
Right. And so I wanted to give everybody the backstory because you were in a situation where your life was being questioned, right? You were questioning your mortality. And so it's ironic that you were here or you were invited to come for New York Fashion Week and you got the transplant, right? And in that process, you have been able to build on your craft, having or being given that second chance, which also accounts for your level of gratitude in consciousness and just being very conscious, right? I think that when your life is challenged, it just opens up another lens of appreciation, and that leads into everything that's occurred since. So lead us on to the next chapter.
Yes, I think when you get to that point where, life, when you see the meaning of life, that life means everything and everything at the same time means nothing. Like you hold life as it with a thin thread, at the same time that thing that means so much to you, that you work so hard for, and can be taken away in just a twinkle of an eye. And it's just like, what is life that we're so mindful of at the same time? So when you go through that whole transitional period, you just have to live to be grateful, because that second lease to life that I have means the world to me. So you're just like, okay, what is the reason why I'm still here? Right. So the reason why I'm still here is to pay it forward, is to give back to with what I have, that talent that God has given me, that talent that the universe has blessed me with. How do I use that to empower people? How do I use that to enrich the lives of all that? So what I have is the ability to design. What I have is the ability to create the magic that I create from the whole essence of life. And that's what I'm doing. And that's the chart that I'm creating forward. Yeah.
And so we're going to fast forward a little bit, because I want to make sure that we talk about the line that we're here to talk about. But I love how you were able to consolidate all of your work throughout the years and create like this 3-step journey, right, of existence, which is the journey, dream, and I am. I mean, if you want to give us a little scenario on each sector, you can, but we got to make it quick because we really want to talk about I am, because I am is the one that leads into athletic side of us, which is what we're here to talk about.
Yes. So so the journey, when I was given the opportunity to show for the New York Fashion Week, I'm grateful to IMG and the Black Fashion Council for that opportunity. I decided to go back to my archive, and that's also my way of saying, I've done so much within the last 7 years. How do I show gratitude for everything I've done? I said, okay, I'm going to go back to the archive and create these 3 chapters where I titled the journey, the dream, and I am. So the journey was like where I started from. That comprised of like the first 3 years of my life, where I was trying to figure out what I'm doing with my talent, what I'm doing with my journey, what I'm doing with everything that I am doing, and how do I progress with who I am as a person? Because at that point in my life, I wasn't even sure if I was going to live for the next 3 months, because doctors will tell you this is what's going to happen or that's what's going to happen. So at that point in time, I was trying to battle with, okay, what is happening? So that's like the pureness of heart, just doing what I was doing for the essence of life. So those were like the clean white lines, beautiful symmetries, and like beautiful innocency to life and pureness of heart to giving. So that's the beginning of the collection, which you see from the video, with just the beautiful lines and beautiful architectural structure of white purity. That's the journey, which is just showing everybody embarks on that. I'm not expecting anything in return. It's just me giving to the life and giving to the world. Then the dream was when I said, okay, fine, there's hope to live. I'm back to school here. I'm, dreaming again. Then I said, okay, fine, that's beautiful architectural lines, romance, structural elements, reminding me that, okay, you have a dream, you have a talent, there's a purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? What's the why behind the what of what I'm doing? So then I started dreaming. Then I started building like this whole beautiful structural elements around my design, and beautiful romance stories within the design. So that's second chapter in the collection. Then the third chapter is I Am, which is where I am now, which is something I'm very, very passionate about, which is the athletic side of us. Is a new line of mine. The idea behind that, definitely just to reconcile our art self. Our art self is you and everything that you are. The totality of yourself is your art. What you do with that is your active self. So how do you reconcile who you are and what you do? Right. In life, we wake up every morning, we start using our senses. We are being active from that point. the industry tries to make us feel like active clothes is only what you wear to work out. But what I'm trying to do is to give us that freedom, that fluidity, where you define what athletic means to you. And that's just that dynamic fluidity of life, reconciling fashion and reconciling that with our active selves as humans. And, yeah.
Well, I gotta tell you, when I was going through all the images, I was like, yes, he is so my style, because it's all about comfort and mobility while looking fabulously stylish.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the idea behind that. You know, the comfortability doesn't have to be that too much expensive. And the other beautiful thing about that is the idea behind that is that we are not harming the planet while we are doing that, because it's sustainable, it's eco-friendly. Most of the pieces are made from recycled bottles, the organic cotton and all that. So the idea that, you know, it's a whole 360 process whereby we're giving to humanity and humanity is giving back to the planet, which inhabits us as humans. So it's like a whole 360 process, which I'm very, very grateful to God for. It's also like, you know, even if you spend extra dollar on a piece of clothing, you know that, okay, this clothing has traveled a process whereby it's giving back to Mother Nature in the process.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so much for bringing it here with us. And, you know, in the end, really what it all sums up to is he's being mindful in his practice in every aspect of its development, coming all the way back to our origins, which is our first home is our body, right? And then our second home is the planet. So thank you for using it in your work and for bringing it here to our viewers. Once again, you guys, to shop Chuks' new collection, you can visit the athletic side of us.com. Don't go anywhere. Bobby C's Weekly Sports Roundup is coming up next.
You know what time it is. It is time for 5 on 5. Here are my top 5 stories from the weekend that you may have missed and my top 5 to look out for this coming weekend. We begin right here in the Bronx with Fordham men's soccer. The Rams defeated George Washington 2-0 to win the 2020-2021 Atlantic 10 Men's Soccer Championship in Dayton, Ohio. For Fordham, it is the team's 4th conference championship and earns the Rams a 5th trip to the NCAA Championship. The field and bracket for the 2020 NCAA Division I Men's Soccer Championship is set and was announced Monday by the NCAA Division I Men's Soccer Committee. And the A-10 champs Fordham will take on Conference USA champion Marshall on Sunday, May 2nd at 1 p.m. in the second round of the tournament in North Carolina. Congratulations to them. What an exciting story right here in the Bronx. 7-0-2 Fordham enters the NCAA championship as one of 4 unbeaten teams in the field, along with James Madison, New Hampshire, and Loyola Marymount. Meantime, the Major League Soccer season didn't start off on the right foot for NYCFC. The club lost 2-1 on the road against DC United Saturday. NYCFC will take on Cincinnati this Saturday, looking to rebound in the second matchup of the season. Our third look back from the weekend here on 5 on 5 turns our attention to the WNBA, where the league held its draft over the weekend. Michaela Onyenwere made history Thursday as the first from the Rocky Mountains selected in the first round of the WNBA draft. The New York Liberty selected Onyenwere, a former Miss Colorado basketball, at Grandview with the 6th overall pick. The versatile 6'5" forward is coming off a dazzling career at UCLA, where she became the program's first two-time AP All-American. Over Onyenwere's final 3 years with the Bruins, she averaged 18.8 points while emerging as UCLA's most potent offensive threat. A late basketball bloomer, Onyenwere didn't start playing until she was 12 and made large strides in the technical parts of her game while in college. Good draft pick by the Liberty. Here's more from draft night.
It's going to be just a great opportunity just to be able to play with people like Natasha Howard, Tammy Whitcomb, Sabrina Ionescu, and just have all those great players surrounding me. I think I'm going to learn a lot. I think I'm going to grow as a player, as a person as well. And I'm really excited to get out to Brooklyn. I hear New York has some great food, so I'm looking forward to that as well.
In the fourth spot, a twist from last week. The Mets are starting to pull it together while the Yankees are still looking for some better play, falling to their worst start since 1997. The Amazons were finally amazing for staff ace Jacob Degrom, who continues to perform well on the hill. His lifetime career ERA for the Mets now matches that of the late, great Tom Seaver. Here's Jacob Degrom.
That was truly business as usual. I think well, I didn't know how many it was, but then I knew I had struck out quite a bit of guys in a row, but I was frustrated that I couldn't field my position. That ball was almost hit right at me. And McNeil did a good job at getting to it, just wasn't able to make the throws.
With the Yankees sputtering over the weekend, we caught up with manager Aaron Boone on being swept by rival Tampa Bay.
Got to get better, period. I think we all know that. And, obviously we have an off day here and another good team coming in. Up against a couple tough pitchers coming in, and we got to get better as a group.
Star Aaron Judge is frustrated. He says the Yankees simply have to be better.
Yeah, every loss is frustrating. Especially with the talent we got in this room and the players we've acquired, the group that we have. It's something special, and we're just not showing it right now on the field. And we just gotta regroup, continue to learn from this, and grind it out.
And in the fifth spot here on 5 on 5, an ode to motorsport with Max Verstappen winning in F1's second race of the season. Marc Marquez returning from injury after missing an entire season in MotoGP to take 7th on the grid. And a rookie shining in IndyCar. Alex Palou earned his first NTT IndyCar Series win for Chip Ganassi Racing. Palou joins Hetty Company as only the third driver to win on debut for CGR, following Michael Andretti in 1994 and the late Dan Weldon in 2006. Here's more with the 24-year-old up-and-comer.
It's just the start, it's just the beginning, but for sure we couldn't start better with Chip Ganassi Racing. And it means a lot, to be honest. Like winning a race in IndyCar, it's not easy. You can see in the past, it's people struggle, and last year I was struggling a lot to be up front. So IndyCar, it's so competitive that you don't know if next week, it's just next week. Like the car is going to be the same, I'm going to be the same, but you don't know where we're going to be. We'll try to do our best, but for sure, at the moment, I'm going to embrace the feeling of being a winner.
There's 5 stories that you may have missed, and here's 5 on tap for the coming weekend. Where are my combat sports fans? UFC 261 features a big card this Saturday night. 3 title fights, including a rematch between welterweight champion Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal in the main event. This comes after Jake Paul shocks the world by beating former UFC fighter Ben Askren in a boxing match. Askren apologizes for the loss. Paul, keeps talking that talk and walking his walk. Plenty of notables are now lining up to fight the social media star. I'll stick to the real thing, though. UFC 261 should be a goodie. I'll also have my eye on the return of star rookie guard LaMelo Ball. That may not happen this weekend, but it is likely to happen in the next week. He has been cleared to resume individual basketball activity after a scan on his fractured right wrist showed that it has healed. While the Charlotte Hornets did not say when Ball will be able to return to game action, a source told ESPN that there's optimism he could be ready to return to the lineup in a week. Ball suffered the injury on a fall in a March 20th loss to the LA Clippers, the 3rd overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft. Ball has averaged 15.9 points, 6.1 assists, and 5.9 rebounds this season. He is among the candidates for Rookie of the Year. In other NBA news, the Brooklyn Nets and New York Knicks are both on their way to a postseason berth. The Knicks have been streaking of late, and the Nets, despite injuries, remain a serious contender in the Eastern Conference. Imagine both New York teams being in the top 4 in the East come the playoffs. Brooklyn faces Boston and Phoenix this weekend, while the Knicks host Toronto Saturday at MSG. Although the NFL Draft is next week, Thursday on April 29th, I'll be keeping a close eye on the league this weekend and the first few days of next week leading into Thursday night. The NFL Draft grabs my 4th spot here on 5 on 5. So curious about where the signal callers land in this year's draft, from Trevor Lawrence to Justin Fields to Zach Wilson, and of course, everyone in between. Speaking of, we'll say goodbye to one in the C list while wrapping up 5 on 5 with an eye on a QB that remains in very hot water. And what amounts to the most substantial league response to date from Deshaun Watson regarding 22 civil lawsuits filed against him, the NFL quarterback's attorney says that all 22 women accusing Watson of sexual misconduct are lying. The counter-accusation comes on the heels of Watson's 22 accusers all complying with judicial orders last week to reveal their identities. That's 5 on 5. We hit the C-list for one of the feel-good stories of 2020. Happy trails to Alex Smith. The QB is calling it a career. The first overall pick in the 2005 NFL Draft, Smith played from 2005 to 2012 in San Francisco, from 2013 to 2017 in Kansas City, and in 2018 to 2020 in Washington. Smith, the veteran quarterback who shocked the football world by returning to the field last year after a devastating leg injury, announced in an Instagram video that he is retiring. The 36-year-old Smith made clear that he is happy that he is now able to leave the game his own way and not on a stretcher, as it appeared he was going to when he suffered that devastating leg injury in 2018. And he's extremely quotable in his goodbye to the fans. Open quote: "2 years ago, I was stuck in a wheelchair, staring down at my mangled leg, wondering if I would ever be able to go on a walk again or play with my kids in the yard. On a routine play, I almost lost everything, but football wouldn't let me give up. Because no, this isn't just a game. It's not just what happens between those white lines on a Sunday afternoon. It's about the challenges and the commitment they require. It's about how hard and how far you can push yourself. It's about the bond between those 53 guys in the locker room and everybody else in the organization. It's about fully committing yourself to something bigger," close quote. Thank you for that life lesson, Mr. Smith. Well said. You will be missed. Thank you for being a bright spot in a down year. I think all of us could agree and appreciate the idea of overcoming challenges in 2020 and how we can strive for better days in 2021. That's your look at sports. I'm Bobby C. Tune in next time for our sit down with new Florida men's basketball coach Kyle Neptune.
Welcome back. It's National Poetry Month, and today's guest is Dominican writer, spoken word performer, and community organizer, originally from the Bronx. And her writing focuses on the nuances of Blackness, Latinidad, and migration. She's been featured on Bronx Museum of Art's Museum of African Diaspora and Para-Latino, and named one of 25 Latinx who made an impact on their communities by Remezcla. Today, she joins us to tell us more. Please welcome Danyeli Rodriguez del Orbe. Hello.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here. Hi,
Well,
hi everybody.
Hi, honey. Let's open up by saying, I introduced you as this Bronx girl, but let's just introduce everybody to the current situation, which is that you live in LA, and your whole journey, which I'm looking forward to hearing from you, has been coming from this lens of being undocumented, right? And you're documented now, but let's talk about that and how that's fed your work and led you to where you are now.
I mean, I grew up in the Bronx in the era of stop and frisk, right? I was a teenager in the era of stop and frisk. So I saw a lot of police presence in my community. I grew up in University Heights. Shout out to West Bronx. So I grew up in the Bronx when I was 8 years old, since I migrated from the Dominican Republic. And growing up undocumented in the Bronx was not something uncommon. I feel like a lot of the community in the Bronx was also undocumented, for the most part. Dominicans, Afro-Caribbeans, Afro-Puerto Ricans, Puerto Ricans overall, Black Americans, and then here and there you see like a splatter of like the Mexican community here and there. But for the most part, I grew up in like a hub or a bubble of Dominicanidad. So I was never, I never had to look at my identity outside of what my Dominicanidad offered me. But I transitioned, or I moved to LA after getting my papers in 2015, I believe. I ended up moving to LA 2018, and it was a very big culture shock, right? I was this like Black Latina in LA, which was, it's like an anomaly here.
Oh, I know. Been there, done that. Been there, done that. So
Afro-Caribeños, totally are not like a dominant population here. So I moved here with no community, and it felt very, very lonely. To this day, I feel like I don't have like a big community of Dominicans in LA. But this year has shown me a lot of like, there's really no place like New York. Like there's no place in New York, there's no place like the Bronx. And it took me leaving for me to see that my community, my day ones are in New York, are in the Bronx. Even though LA has offered me so many opportunities for my art, for my writing. This is where I have learned and connected with other poets. This is where like I have performed at universities for the first time. LA has really like fostered and harvested my artistry. Right. And my voice was
the expansion of your artistry is what you're saying. Right.
Exactly.
Into audiences that now you're being introduced to different audiences rather than, living in the bubble of the Bronx.
And audiences as well that are thirsty for this work, that are hungry for this work, right? That are hungry to see a different narrative and to hear about Black migrants and to hear about like Black Caribeños who have been undocumented. So, LA and California has opened a lot of doors for me. But I always kind of like go back to like my homesickness of the Bronx, right? And that's still the place that I call home.
Yeah. And speaking of home, I noticed that you also reference your mom a lot in your work. And the beauty of the way you reference her is from this place of even, I almost feel like I go into your thoughts of embracing the reality of what it is and what you are and who you are and who she is and what she represents and what you've become. It's really fascinating. I mean, I don't even know if that even said anything to you guys, but she's gonna perform for us later, so you're gonna understand what I mean. But let's talk about that pride that you carry about your mom, despite whatever it is she had to do in order to see and raise you.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's no secret that my mom raised me a single mother, a single parent. I grew up in a single parent household all around with my aunt, Dina, and my godmother, Nia, who they all collectively raised me and raised each other's children, right, as single mothers. So my mom had a really, really big part in me finding my voice and finding a voice for her struggles as well, right? A lot of the times our parents operate within a place of survival, and that's the way that they lead their lives. So, here I go, the 1.5 generation, right? A young migrant kid who found her voice and also is now confident enough to tell the stories of those that came before her who might not even feel comfortable with sharing their own voice. So I tell these stories for my mom and about my mom. In order to create awareness that even though we are not our parents, they sacrifice a lot, to bring us here, to raise us here, especially raise me in the Bronx during their stop and frisk, with crime, at its peak, and police brutality everywhere. And my mom, took a lot of care and was very intentional about the kind of upbringing that she offered me. And now I get to share those stories and share anecdotes about where I come from, who I come from, and why I came to be because of who I come from, right? So shout out to mommy, who's a very immigrant parent of hers, has no idea what I do, She'll clap for me, but she's like, what do you mean poetry? Aren't you going to law school? So shout out to all the immigrant parents who like show up even when they don't really understand what we do.
I love that.
That's
That's so beautiful. That's beautiful. Bueno, gracias, Danyeli. She's going to actually share it in poetic form when we come back. So you guys don't go anywhere because we do have to take a quick break. Thank you for sharing all of that with us, Danyeli. And when we come back, she's going to perform actually a poem of resistance for Mommy when we return. Welcome back here now to perform a poem of resistance for Mommy. Let's give it up for Danyeli Rodriguez del Orbe.
My mother raised me fearless. She taught me how to peel plátano without trembling, how to let the blade do its job without shaking. When American kids twisted my name, softened it, broke its sound, she made sure I knew how to correct it. Danyeli, the real way. The Spanish way and the Dominican way. And when Spanish-speaking teachers drowned me in their spit, my mother scolded me from across the room. And that's how I learned how to swim. My mother raised a swimmer and a sprinter, told me to never stay in places not meant for me, told me to never linger in dark rooms by men holding machetes under their palms. My mother spoke to me about sex. She knew that to survive in our block, she had to punch the wise right into me, make a young woman out of a child and a cub into a panther way before the boys could. But often I was stubborn. I had too much of her in my hips, too much of her in my lips. I had to learn my lesson when I laid in the concrete, crying after a boy who did not treasure me. I had to learn my lesson when I couldn't come home and face her. I am 26 now. And I'm realizing that my mother's herbs, medicinas caseras, sazón limón con vivaporú can cure way more than a cold. That some ginger and fideo soup can cure more than my throat. I am 26 now, and I'm realizing that aunque me cueste, my mother is sometimes, usually, and always freaking right. But don't tell her I said that. Because my mother is a strong woman and she does not soften up to love letters and flowers, and there's too much anger and too much pride for me to tell her all the things that I wish that I could. But you see, if my mother understood this language that breaks her every day, this right here is what I would say. Mommy, I know I'm a malcriada and my temper is 3 hurricanes in one, and the boy child shoes are always bad, and I know that I barely see you because I work so much and I'm out in the streets teaching people know your rights, but you're at home rezando that I come home at night. And I know you beg me not to shout at cops or open my big mouth, but who else would do this for you, Ma? You came here when I was 7, brought me here a year later, worked 3 jobs and paid for college, and they stabbed you in the back, called me a dreamer, gave me DACA, and then asked you to pack your bags. So Mommy, I'm not ready. Put down the damn backpack and the passport and the boarding pass, because as long as I can talk and move and breathe, I will riot and I will fight and I won't let them touch you, Mommy. Not now, not ever, and not tonight. You let this country break your back and gave your life to raise me right. You cannot and we must not give up now.
Ay, Danyeli, what a beautiful love letter to her mommy. Oh, just in time for Mother's Day. Oh my gosh, you guys, once again, happy National Poetry Month. For more on Danyeli Rodriguez de Orbe, be sure to follow her on Instagram at Afro Dominican X Things! Exclamation point. That is our show today, mi gente. Thanks to all our guests for coming through, and to you, our viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of the show, you can check out the recablecast tonight and 24 hours a day at BronxNet.tv. I'm Rhina Valentin, and from all of us here at Open, may the universe provide paz, prosperity, y amor.